We're just going to jump in.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to the Leaders Podcast. Today on the show, I have Tyler Schmidt. So he is the current president of PennyDrops at MacEwan. He's currently also attending university at MacEwan, and he has experience and a background in management consulting. And he is also now part of the AWE network, which is a network of women entrepreneurs in Edmonton. So hi, welcome.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I thought you'd make a great leader to interview for the show, obviously because I actually attended one of the PennyDrops events this year, and you've been sort of looking after that and kind of in charge of a lot of things. So yeah, thanks for hosting that event, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, thanks for coming. It was, we were really happy with how it turned out. We got
Yeah.
a lot of students out, and we got a lot of companies interested in kind of networking with students. So I think it was a really good success all across the board.
Yeah. And how many of those events do you kind of manage every year, I guess?
We usually try to stick to one per year,
Yeah.
just because PennyDrops mainly focuses on financial education. So for high school students and university students. So hosting our workshops is kind of our main offering. And then we do usually one networking event because PennyDrops really wants to better equip students for going out into the real world, I guess. And so obviously finance being the main offering, but helping these students kind of set up their careers is also definitely something that we want to help with. So that's kind of why we do both.
Yeah. And I guess for any students that are listening, do you have any kind of like quick, I don't know if that's a nice way to phrase it,
Yeah.
but like some quick financial advice?
I think, especially during this time right now, people are seeing how important it is to save their money. Because a lot of people kind of think as long as I'm spending less than I make, I'll be okay. I'm not in debt, and that is true. But at the same time, what we kind of preach as kind of a framework for your finances is you take 20% from your paycheck and put it into your savings, and then have no more than 50% going towards your essential expenses. And then that gives you kind of an extra 30% to put towards what we call your lifestyle expenses. So maybe going to an expensive dinner, or I guess going to the movies if they ever come back. But yeah, it's just.
I'm saving a lot of money not going to the movies right now.
Oh yeah, I think we all are. But yeah, I mean, and that's kind of why we say like you should save as much money as you can, because you never know when something like this might happen when you're gonna need it, right? So
For sure.
yeah, and I mean that's kind of low hanging fruit right now, just to save your money, but it's really important, especially as you start saving for things down the road, like buying a house or even retiring way down the road. You want to set yourself up really well for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is one thing that's kind of made you the most proud about your work in the last year?
Man, I think it would probably have to be that event, actually, the one at Nate, because it really took a lot of effort from everyone, and that was the first event that I had hosted in association with the MacEwan Commerce Club, and it was really great getting to be able to work with them and collaborate with them to put on this really really well attended and I think successful event. So
Yeah.
that would probably be, yeah. And then as well, with PennyDrops, we also did a workshop at Jasper Place for around 300 students
Oh, wow.
over the course of 2 days. Yeah, so it was a lot, but it was really rewarding. And before we even finished our second day of workshops, the main kind of teacher that we were communicating with already asked if we could come back another time. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was very successful as well. So
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
And did you have anybody come up and talk to you about it, or like, do you think that they got a lot of value out of it?
Yeah, we did for sure. We had quite a few people say like, I've been looking for this kind of thing. Like some people were already working, they had part-time jobs or something, and they were getting a lot of money, but they kind of got overwhelmed by it. Like they didn't know what to do with it. And so some of them thought, I'm getting all this extra money. This is all extra money that I can spend, but it really helped them kind of change their their perception of what money is for, they kind of realized like, oh, this isn't something burning a hole in my pocket. You know,
Yeah.
I should kind of be smart as I start getting money. And then a few students as well were interested in going into business. So myself and some of the other PennyDrops team, we kind of talked to them about what the commerce program's like, and kind of what to expect from that as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was really rewarding for sure.
Yeah, I have nothing but praise for the commerce program at MacEwan
Hmm.
myself, because
Yeah,
I know my time there has been really valuable.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah. So what's next for you then? Because I think
Yeah.
you're the president. Are you still the current sitting president?
Yes. Yeah.
And
I will
then,
be for the next year.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's the plan right now. We're actually kind of we're trying to figure out how we're going to be able to deliver our workshops for the next year. It really depends on if high schools are going to be back in, what kind of capacity they're going to be at for classrooms, if they're going to allow outside speakers to come in, because that's kind of a bit of a gray area right now. So yeah, trying to figure out how we're going to do that. I'm still going to be at MacEwan for the next year, so our fall semester is going to be online,
Yeah.
which is kind of too bad, but I understand where they're coming from for sure. Um, yeah, so just kind of taking classes, and then from there, I don't know, we'll see. I'll definitely be kind of reaching out to my network to see what kind of employment opportunities are out there once I graduate. But I think just kind of focusing on my last year's studies,
Yeah.
and yeah, trying to run a successful student-run organization at MacEwan. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any idea what you want to get into for work?
Well, my major is marketing,
Yeah.
and I have experience as a marketing assistant and doing some sort of things in that field. So definitely something related to marketing. I really enjoy kind of strategic marketing, brand positioning. So probably something in that field. But there are definitely a lot of things that I'm kind of interested in. And yeah, I think it just comes down to what's the best fit for me once I'm
Sure.
out in the real world. Yeah.
Yeah. And so during this time,
Yeah.
like you are basically functioning as a leader. You are giving people advice. You're hosting events. You're kind of looking after a large groups of people.
Hmm.
Um, but do you have anybody in particular that has made an impact on uh, your own kind of career progress? Like, do you have a mentor?
Yeah. Well, I think more than anything, my parents have played a huge role in kind of shaping me as a leader because they both come from a business background. They've both started and run their own businesses. They've been involved in different government bodies. My mom was with the government of Alberta for I think 10 or 15 years. My dad is the executive director for the Northwest Industrial Business Association.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're definitely leaders and business leaders in their own right. And I guess just kind of being around them and being around kind of and seeing how they lead definitely kind of shaped my own leadership style. So I'd say that's kind of my uh, that would be my kind of my go-to answer if I have any questions about kind of leadership or business or anything. I usually just go to them and
Wow.
they give me a good answer. So yeah, it's definitely been a good thing to have. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah.
Is there a particular example that you can think of that, like some advice they offered you that helped you
Mhm.
shape your career perspective?
Yeah, I think one of the things I was doing, I was an associate producer for a theater company here in town, and I don't want to generalize, but actors seem to be a little more high maintenance than uh, the average person, we'll say.
I'm not
And so
saying
I would,
anything.
sorry.
I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, okay. I'm not saying I have a lot of friends that are actors and they're all great.
Yeah.
But there are some people, and that seems to be the stereotype that you know they need a little more help than other people. But I remember I came home one day and I just told my parents. I said like, you know what, I can't take this. Like this is insane. This one person in particular is like driving me insane. And they both basically just told me like, you know what, pick your battles. You're not going to win all of them. Even though you're in a leadership position, it's important to make them feel like their input is valuable. You can't just kind of tell them what to do all the time. And so that was kind of the approach I took, was instead of kind of fighting against this person, to kind of work with them,
Yeah.
to understand their point of view, to see kind of where they were coming from, and then from there we could make a decision together. And that definitely helped a lot, because yeah, I
What
sorry.
did you say? Like, how did you
Yeah.
initiate that conversation?
It was just kind of like, because we both knew that we were kind of butting heads with each other. So I said, you know what, instead of kind of looking at each other as a source of conflict, how about we work together in order to resolve this kind of conflict? And so moving forward, anytime a conflict arose, whether it be kind of a difference of opinion, we both felt that we could go to the other person and kind of explain our point of view, and then also listen to the other person's point of view, and then work out a solution together, instead of just saying, like, my way is the best. And that it really helped a lot, because we learned to compromise, we learned to listen, and I think that was probably the biggest lesson
Yeah.
through that whole thing, for sure.
And then it just like so that helped the relationship get better or be
Yeah. Oh,
fair?
yeah, for sure it did. And I think that in general, the more time that you spend working with people, you get to know kind of how they work, and their kind of their leadership style, their and as well, like, the way that they want to be led, because some people want you to be very direct with them and tell them exactly what to do, but other people want to be involved in the decision making process, and that's really important to some people. I know I'm kind of that way. And so it was, yeah, just kind of understanding where people are coming from, and the better you can do that, the better the relationship will be overall.
Yeah. Awesome. Have you seen anything that like maybe yourself, a mistake that you've made,
Mhm.
or maybe other people, have you seen anything that will kind of derail somebody's leadership authority or their career even?
Uh, Thankfully, this hasn't happened to me. I don't feel like I've been derailed at any point, but I've definitely seen it from some leaders in the past, and I'd say that it kind of comes down to arrogance, I would say. Um, because I mean, there are definitely a lot of factors that kind of influence someone's success or lack of success. And I feel like if you start off very successful and you feel like you're untouchable, um, you're gonna start breaking down in some of the other leadership aspects of how you're running things. So if you're arrogant, you're gonna probably stop innovating. You're gonna stop kind of whatever got you to the point where you're at now. You're gonna say, you know what, I'm untouchable. Nobody can amass what I've done.
Yeah.
Uh, and at the same time, if you're going to stop innovating, you're going to stop looking for ideas from the people around you. You're going to stop asking input from your employees, or even just kind of your colleagues. And that's dangerous too, because people are going to be way more motivated to work for someone if they feel like they're heard.
Yeah.
And if you think, I'm all that and a bag of chips, then you're going to stop asking the input from the people around you. And I think that's uh, and your employees are going to stop being motivated to work for you. So I think arrogance kind of would be the number one, I would say. It's a good question though. Um, I think that's kind of the most underlying factor though.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I know that I've seen it myself where
Yeah.
it can be good in times of crisis, because sometimes
Hmm.
you need somebody who's just super strong and they're like, no, no, this is what we have to do right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
I don't think it's long-term sustainable.
no. And I think there's got to be there's a fine line between arrogant and charismatic.
Yeah.
Because I would argue that a charismatic leader is someone who is is a self-starter, very self-motivated, but not to the point where they will exclude other people. And I think that's the most important thing is, yes, and absolutely in times of crisis, you need kind of a strong leader. Um, but you definitely also need to take into account the perception of the people around that leader and how they're going to respond to it long term, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And how do you flip back and forth between those two styles? Because I'm sure there's must have been a time where you've had
Mm-hmm.
to kind of, like, no offense to anybody, put them in their place.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. It's not something I like doing by any means, but I think that it kind of comes down to the time of crisis, like you said. Like you're kind of able to be flexible for a while, but when it comes down to crunch time, you got to start kind of putting the file to the grindstone. What's the expression? Put the something to the grindstone. I don't know.
Uh,
Um, but
Nose to the ground. I don't
nose to
know.
the yeah.
Sure,
It's your nose.
that'll work. That'll
Yeah,
work.
you got to sharpen that old nose.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kind of gotta get down to work, and that's kind of where a lot of conflict happens, is when there's tension. And so my best advice, I guess, to avoid that is to start kind of solving those problems ahead of time, or solving potential problems before they arise. And that way, if there is kind of a crunch time, everybody knows what to do, and it's a lot more cohesive of a unit.
Yeah.
Overall. So it's tough, and yeah, I definitely don't like putting people in their place, or kind of telling them that they're doing a poor job. But and what I've done also in the past is, if there is a lot of tension and I just have to kind of make an executive decision and go with that, is to then circle back with the people afterwards and kind of apologize if need be for my tone or anything that I said to hurt them or anything like that, and then explain kind of why the executive decision was made, and what we can do moving forward to kind of help alleviate that in the future.
Yeah. And I think that's, like, it could be a really key piece that maybe a lot of people do miss, is making sure to go back and
Yeah.
tend to those relationships.
For sure.
So, so is there anybody right now, like, who do you look up to for inspiration? I know you said your parents,
Yeah.
but is there anybody else, like the like the Gary V's of the world, or
Yeah.
like that?
I'd say probably a lot of people. I definitely reach out to my own network a lot, just through different just the different connections that I have. One guy in particular was my old coworker from when I was working at Go Productivity.
Yeah.
And he's an amazing leader, and he's a great speaker, and he has a lot of life experience and a lot of wisdom. And so I know that anytime I come to him with a question, he might not have the answer, but he'll kind of go through kind of whatever I'm curious about or wondering about. And I definitely feel like, he's definitely a great leader, and inspires me to do my best, for sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned Go Productivity.
Yeah.
What did you do over there?
So that's a great
Yeah.
question. So I guess I'll start with, so Go Productivity, they're a small business, and they kind of help small and medium-sized businesses, usually in the manufacturing sector, kind of streamline their different manufacturing processes, and just kind of be more effective and productive with their business processes.
Yeah.
So I was doing some kind of business-to-business marketing, and then kind of helping with the different workshops that they ran. And so that was a really good experience. But Go Productivity started out as Productivity Alberta, which started as a division within the government of Alberta. And so this is a long story, so strap in.
Yeah. Weird.
So it kind of started off as a government program, and so I found out through my mom, who was working at the government of Alberta, and then once the business itself left the government and became its own private enterprise, I talked to the head of marketing to see if they had any need for a summer student, and I think I was think I was 16 or 17 when I first applied there, and then I worked for the next 4 summers there, doing different things every summer. So I started off kind of writing content for their blog. I started helping them kind of plan and run events. Yeah, doing different kind of content creation, and then I think like uh, the final year I was there, Go Productivity was in the process of being bought by Nate to be operational out of their productivity and innovation center.
Oh,
So
crazy.
yeah, so it
Yeah.
was really cool. But a lot of the people at Nate didn't really know kind of the story of how Productivity Alberta and then Go Productivity came to be.
I've never
So
even heard of that. Like
no,
where
yeah.
a
Hmm.
government basically sector branch, whatever it was called,
What
break
it was,
away into private
yeah.
enterprise.
Hmm. And it was really interesting to see kind of how the culture changed through all these different years. Because every year I came back, there would be new people, there would be people who had left, and at the start, it very much functioned like a government basically, because it was all government employees,
Yeah.
um, and that kind of became their own business. And then from there, they kind of hired in new people, and it was really interesting to see that, you know, as the government people, I think there were still a few government people left when I was still there, um, but it definitely wasn't like a very rigid, like kind of stereotypical government structure. Like it was definitely cool to see how it kind of grew and evolved over time. Um, and so that was part of so yeah, myself and another summer student, we put together a video chronicling kind of the history of Go Productivity and all the
Cool.
adaptations and stuff that it went through. Yeah, so it started off as just kind of a sector of the government, and now it's a national business. We have people in, or I guess I'm not with them anymore, but
Yeah. You
they
still
have
feel like you're part of the team though, sounds
yeah, yeah,
like.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they have people in Toronto and BC. Yeah, so it's really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
It was yeah, and that kind of that was it was a really valuable kind of job to have, because I got to really see how like an office environment ran. And when you're a 16-year-old kid wanting to go into business but not really having any experience, like that's like incredibly valuable. And then yeah, just kind of to see how the culture can grow and change over time, much like any organization, was also really good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I yeah, it's super interesting just to kind of like get into it early, see how it works,
Yeah.
and then learn from it.
Hmm, for sure.
Um, so, but that's what you were doing, and you're
Yes.
still working with PennyDrops, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
So, what are your current goals looking like?
My current goal right now, so I don't know. I always kind of have short, medium, and long-term goals for myself. So I'd say kind of a short-term goal, is to kind of graduate university, have like a really good last year with PennyDrops before I
Yeah.
pass it off to
So your short-term goal is still like a year-long thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how I think.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then kind of my medium term goal is probably to kind of start a job, or yeah, start working somewhere full time once I've graduated, and then kind of become I guess financially independent, start living on my own. I'm still with my
Are you a
parents right
fire
now.
guy?
Am I a fire guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't that sound for financial independence, retire early?
Oh, I actually haven't heard that
Oh,
before.
really?
I
Yeah.
thought
It's
maybe you
just
were
like,
asking if I was like a pyromaniac.
no, no, no.
Like, well,
I
no, but
like camping. Like,
yeah, yeah, I'm
no.
really good. I can build a killer log cabin
Yeah,
fire.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I like that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
start
yeah.
using
There,
that
it's like
for
a
sure.
whole, you should look it up. It's like a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
community of people who they they just save as much money as they can, and they
Hmm.
try and retire even sometimes before 30.
Holy,
So,
okay, that's
yeah.
a little ambitious.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That it's that's kind of a it's a weird balance with me, because I do really like to save my money. Um, I feel I'm a fairly risk adverse person overall. But at the same time, like I really like traveling, and I feel like spending money on experiences like that is something that's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Because if I just save all my money until I'm like 60 or 75, like that's, I mean, you can't really do a whole lot of like I'm not going to be able to go like cliff jumping in somewhere when I'm 75.
Yeah. Yeah, for
But I
sure.
think like, yeah, so it's a weird kind of balance to strike, is like don't let life pass you by, but at the same time don't get just so stuck in the moment that you can't kind of appreciate um but I
Yeah.
guess like things down the road. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely spent my most of my 20s as an experienced guy. Like I've traveled a ton,
Hmm.
been all over the world. I was actually a competitive martial artist for a long
Yeah.
time, and as well as coach of the national team. So I did a ton of
Wow.
traveling, saw a bunch of
Yeah,
stuff, and
that's
then
very cool.
now, and then now I part of the reason why I'm even doing this show is because I'm trying to learn the other long-term planning side of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting to meet people like you and talk about this stuff, because
Hmm.
that's the other side of
Yeah.
life that I'm like, oh, I should look after this now.
Yeah. Well, I had a teacher in high school, and I don't know if he was supposed to be the one teaching us about finance, but he just kind of like took it on.
Yeah.
He decided to retire when he was 20,
Okay.
and retire for like 10 years.
Oh wow.
And then and so he did a lot of traveling and stuff like that. And he wouldn't say, but I would assume he incurred like just massive amounts of debt because he didn't have, a lot of money. Um,
Crazy.
yeah, and so then his whole plan was then to, I guess, make it back when he turned, well, I guess when he turned 30 and started working.
Yeah.
Um, but then, I think he's only in his 40s now, so we don't really get to see kind of the long term effects of that decision. Um, but I feel like he's going to have to work for a long time uh,
Interesting.
in order to, I guess, retire again.
Yeah.
Because people don't usually retire because they want to. It's kind of because they have to. Like they're getting old. They're getting they're slowing down. Um, but yeah, I don't know. He's definitely the first person that I've ever heard of to retire at like the beginning of their life.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
It's also super interesting for me to hear you talk and and hear that you're already, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Yeah. So the fact that you're already thinking about this and you're also trying to like educate other people on it is awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, why I really joined PennyDrops in the first place was because I think we all kind of realized that we weren't really taught a lot about finance in school. Definitely not in high school. I think like if you take kind of finance courses in university, you learn a bit more. But a lot of people graduate high school not really knowing what to do with their money, um, really how to invest it, how to save it. And so that's really why I wanted to join PennyDrops, is because they kind of solved that problem, or at least kind of addressed it. Um, and kind of their goal is kind of to continually educate today's youth and help prepare them for uh, help them prepare for their careers. And then in turn, when they start having kids of their own, they're going to be able to, I guess, be more educated to help their kids kind of uh, launch their careers as well.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, and it's so important. And
Yeah, yeah.
hopefully that the work that you guys are doing through Penny Drops and through whatever your next steps
Hmm.
are, continue to do that. Um, because speaking from my own experience with a family that my mom's side basically were farmers in Saskatchewan, and my dad's actually a Portuguese immigrant, so I'm a first
Oh
gen
wow,
Canadian.
wow.
So having to figure a lot of this stuff out
Hmm.
it's it's important, and I want to do my job to make sure that like the next generation has it easier. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Um, so what is something that I like to always kind of close out with is, what is
Mhm.
one characteristic that you think every leader should possess?
That's a tough one.
I know.
Yeah, man. I think I'm going to go with the ability to build a good culture. And I say that, I don't know if that's a bit of a cop-out answer, because I don't really know if any one person has the ability to do that. But it really uh, kind of encapsulates all the other important, at least in my mind, important leadership characteristics. Like if you kind of build a culture that values integrity and honesty, that's going to be reflected in your colleagues and your coworkers.
100%
And
it
if
comes from the leader.
yeah,
Like you as
yeah,
the leader,
yeah, I
super
just mean I
firm
don't
believer.
I
Like,
don't know if the leader alone can do that, because it has to be kind of you have to have buy-in from the employees as well.
yeah.
But
How do you get buy-in though?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of a never-ending circle, right? So yeah, it definitely starts with the leader, but yeah. So I think that would be my choice for sure, is the ability to build a good culture.
Yeah.
Because then because everything else kind of falls
Are you
into that kind
are
of
you
bucket.
familiar with
So
the quote about culture? The Peter Drucker's quote?
I think so, but could you just remind me, just
Yeah,
in case?
the
Yeah.
culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
for sure. Hmm.
Yeah.
And that was one of the. Did you ever take organizational behavior, Orga 316
Yeah,
in university? Yeah, I think you
yeah, of
had to.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Management's my
was
major, so I'm all in
right.
Orga.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But yeah, that was one of my most enjoyable classes for sure, because we got to
who's your
look at kind
prof?
of Charles Keim.
Oh, okay. I never had
He
a.
was really
Yeah.
good. He taught by kind of showing us real world examples of culture and leadership. So I think throughout the entire course, he probably taught probably 15 slides of PowerPoint, and the rest was all kind of like YouTube videos and in-class activities,
Yeah.
to help kind of demonstrate different leadership and culture principles in a real way. Because I know I've been in some management classes where it's all theoretical, and it's just like, here whatever 5 types of leadership or whatever, and like those are all they're good. Like it's good to know kind of what kind of leader you are.
Yeah.
But it really isn't applicable until you see it in a real world scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's great.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
If people want to get in touch with you,
Yeah.
or if people want to get in touch with PennyDrops, because I'm
Yes.
sure a lot of people, hopefully, are kind of
Yeah.
thinking about their finances, thinking about their future. What's the best
Mhm.
way to do that?
So the PennyDrops Instagram is pd.mcewan
Yep.
on Instagram, PennyDrops at MacEwan on Facebook. And then our email is edmonton@pennydrops.com, or .org. It's .org. But yeah, definitely reach out to us to there. Any of those channels would work for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing from anyone if you're interested in learning more about myself or learning more about personal finance or what PennyDrops does. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.